This video tutorial is about the coordination of the cardiac cycle. The heart muscle, or cardiac muscle, is unusual in that it can initiate its own contraction. Because of this property, the heart muscle is described as being myogenic. The muscle will contract and relax rhythmically even if it is not connected to the body. The muscles from the atria and the muscles from the ventricles each have their own natural frequency of contraction. The atrial muscles tend to contract at a higher frequency than the ventricular muscles. This property of the muscle could also cause inefficient pumping if the contraction of the chambers was not synchronized, a condition known as fibrillation. So the heart needs a mechanism that can coordinate the contractions of all four chambers. At the top of the right atrium, near the point where the vena cava empties blood into the atrium, is the sinoatrial node, referred to as SAN. This is a small patch of tissue that generates electrical activity. The sinoatrial node initiates a wave of excitation at regular intervals. In a human, this occurs 55 to 80 times a minute. The sinoatrial node is also known as the pacemaker. The wave of excitation quickly spreads over the walls of both atria. It travels along the membranes of the muscle tissue. As the wave of excitation passes, it causes the cardiac muscle cells to contract. This is an atrial systole. The tissue at the base of the atria is unable to conduct the wave of excitation, and so it cannot spread directly onto the ventricle walls. At the top of the interventricular septum, which is the septum separating the two ventricles, is another really important node called the atrioventricular node, or the AVN. This is the only route that can conduct the wave of excitation through to the ventricles. The wave of excitation is delayed at the atrioventricular node. This allows time for the atria to finish contracting and for the blood to flow down into the ventricles before they begin to contract. After this short delay, the wave of excitation is carried away from the atrioventricular node and down specialist conducting tissue known as the Purkinje fibers, or the Purkinje tissues. This runs down the interventricular septum. At the base of the septum, the wave of excitation spreads out and over the walls of the ventricles. As the excitation spreads upwards from the base, the apex of the ventricles, it causes the muscles to contract. This means that the ventricles contract from the base upwards. This pushes blood up towards the major arteries at the top of the heart. We can monitor the electrical activity of the heart using an electrocardiogram, or an ECG. This involves attaching a number of sensors to the skin. Some of the electrical activity generated by the heart spreads through the tissues next to the heart and outwards to the skin. The sensors on the skin pick up the electrical excitation created by the heart and convert this into a trace. The trace of a healthy person has a particular shape. It consists of a series of waves that are labeled P, Q, R, S, and T. Wave P shows the excitation of the atria. The QRS complex indicates the excitation of the ventricles. T shows diastole. The shape of the ECG trace can sometimes indicate when part of the heart muscle is not healthy. These diagrams show some abnormal ECG traces compared with the normal trace. Such traces can be used by medical professionals to diagnose heart problems. So first of all, we have bradycardia. Bradycardia is when the heart rate slows down to below 60 beats per minute. Many people have bradycardia because they are fit. Training makes the heart beat more slowly and efficiently. Severe bradycardia can be serious and may need an artificial pacemaker to keep the heart beating steadily. Secondly, we have tachycardia. This is when the heartbeat is very rapid, over 100 beats per minute. This is often normal, for instance, when you exercise, if you have a fever, if you're frightened, or if you're angry. If it is abnormal, it may be caused by problems in the electrical control of the heart and may need to be treated on by medication or by surgery. Penultimately, we'll look at the ectopic heartbeat. This is when you have extra heartbeats that are out of the normal rhythm. Most people have at least one a day. They are usually normal, but they can be linked to serious conditions when they are very frequent. And finally, atrial fibrillation. This means an abnormal rhythm of the heart. Rapid electrical impulses are generated in the atria. They contract very fast, i.e. they fibrillate, up to 400 times a minute. However, they don't contract properly, and only some of the impulses are passed on to the ventricles, which contract much less often. As a result, the heart does not pump blood very efficiently.